Hello and welcome to another scrapbooking process video. I'm Tracy, also known as MercyTiara, and I create scrapbooking process videos and more here on my channel. Today I'm scrap lifting my own self again. If you haven't seen it already, be sure to check out my last layout in which I also scrap lifted an older page from one of my own albums. Today I'm using the Joy Kit from our own shop, MercyTiaraKits.com. You can check that out if you'd like to scrap along with the same supplies. Our kit for this month is a beautiful assortment of holiday themed papers and embellishments. So I'm starting by going through and having a look at what papers I'd like to use. I have the main kit. I also have the patterned paper add-on kit as well. And I settled on this beautiful paper from Paige Evans from her from her Sugar Plum Wishes. Not to be confused with Peppermint Kisses, which is also in this kit, which is the Vicky Bouton line. Now, this paper is a beautiful pattern from Cartabella. It came in the kit, and I'm just going to cut out a small little bit of it, a full-length strip, but I just wanted those poinsettia-looking flowers. And this is going to serve as the ledge on this layout. So you see on the original there was that pink piece with the chevron cutouts on it. That's what I'm using that mint green paper for. And now I'm also going to cut a few of these gorgeous tags. So I'm grabbing anything that I think might coordinate with this kit. I just had to cut another one to get at the one that I wanted. And I might use this one as well, but I'm not going to quite yet. I want to mat my photo in this beautiful paper from Vicky Bouton's Peppermint Kisses collection. Oh, I love it. And it just adds a little bit of boldness around the photo. Not only is the design bold with those pointy stars, but it's also going to be one of the darkest things on the page. And so it's going to draw your eye right into the photo. And I did leave it as, it's not really a mat, it's more of just a layer behind the photo. It's a little bit bigger than what my mats usually are. I would consider that more of a layer. Now, what I'm gesturing here, I am live streaming at the same time that I'm doing this. I live stream with my patrons every month, and this was one of two layouts that I made in November when I was live streaming. What I was gesturing there is that this background paper with the snowflakes on it, as beautiful as it is, I think it's just slightly too busy for all of the patterns that I'm going to be using together here. So my gestures there were about me wanting to add some paint or some mixed media to the background to soften up that background pattern. You will see me do that at the very, very end. I'm cutting this one out because I thought that cut apart would make a really pretty layer in there. I love this set of cut aparts. This is from Crate Paper. And it gives me a couple of different options that are just a little bit less busy than some of the other patterns that are in the kit. And that was one of the main reasons I added this particular paper to this kit, is because it had a lot of cut aparts that ended up being a little bit more interesting than just cardstock or a really plain pattern, but it gives your eye a little bit of a place to rest. So I'm using it amongst all of these fairly busy patterns. Paige Evans patterns tend to be very beautifully busy, which I adore. I'm just having a look at a combination of that page of tags that I have that I did cut into for another layout. And so I don't have all of the tags that I necessarily want. I have this punch here that gives me, that creates a banner flag, like a fishtail banner. And so I'm going to cut a couple of 1-inch pieces and just stick it into, this is a Stampin' Up! Punch. I don't know if you can still get it, but I just love the angle of the little fishtails on these. So I am selecting a couple of different tags here that have patterns that I like, and then I'm cutting a strip to 1 inch wide, and then I will put those and make a little strip of banners. You'll see in the original, which is up in the corner right now, that there is a little series of banners towards the bottom center of the page, and that's what I'm making right now. Mine is not going to be in exactly the same place, and my banners are larger, but I am going to incorporate these banners into this page because I just really liked that look. Now, my last banner, I did want it to be pink. I felt like there was just too much blue going on, and I'm trying to use pink to break up all the blues and purples. So I didn't have a plain enough one, but I thought I might be able to make this work even with the words on it. It says admit one, but I'm going to use it anyways because I'm mostly using the very ends of these banners. They're way too long for what I have in mind, but I thought it's better that they're too long and I can always cut them down. Now I do have to start outlining and gluing these layers down. So I did snap a picture before I did so, just so that I can, make sure that I put them back in place because I really liked how they were. Now, I forgot how this punch even works. I'm trying to look at it sideways, which you can't really see where you're poking a hole, but yeah, you can actually open the little compartment where the little bits are gathered, and then you can see exactly where you're punching and not punch off center like I did. I have a fix for that because I actually have a punch that is the shape of a tag reinforcer. So I'm just going to punch some tag reinforcers and cover over the fact that my tags are punched a little wonkily. I am using a Faber-Castell Pitt pen to do my outlining. This is one of my favorite blue colors. I think it's called Indanthrine Blue. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that properly, but I don't have it in front of me, but I'm pretty sure I've described it enough times to remember that, at least phonetically, it seems to be Indanthrine Blue. Let me know if I'm wrong on that. So outlining, what it does is it pulls all of my papers together, and I'm using blue here just because this whole page has a real icy, crisp, cold look to it, and I wanted to emphasize that, so I went with the blue. It's also a little bit less bold and harsh than black would be, and I wouldn't want to use brown on this page because it doesn't have any real brown elements on it. So that just pulls all of those otherwise different looking patterns together. And I will also outline this as well. And I'm double outlining, which helps make it, first of all, it becomes a little bit more thick and bold when you double outline, but also it gives it a casual, almost like a whimsical look. I do want to put some string in the tags, and so I pulled out my little embroidery kit. This is from Paige Evans. It was an add-on for the kit this month, and I have a few already stitched Christmas trees. It was like a Paige Evans embroidery kit that gives you all this floss and some trees with holes in them, and then you can hand stitch some beautiful designs on there. But I'm just going to use the pink embroidery floss. Obviously, there's way more floss here than you would need to cross stitch a couple of trees. So I'm going to use the pink here for my threads. Now here's that punch that I have. It's a We Are Memory Keepers punch. And I'm just trying to pick a couple of colors that will work. I was wishing that you could see through this punch, but you can't. I don't know why they made this punch this way. It's kind of silly. But for whatever reason, you can't see where you're punching. I'm just trying to see if I'm missing something, like maybe something pops out so that you could see it, but nope, it's just intact. And that it is what it is. But I do really like having this little circle, this reinforcer punch. In the past, what I've done is I have punched circles with one size of circle and then punched the inside hole out with another punch. So you can get this look without buying a specialty item. I just use enough tags that I thought it was worth it to get a reinforcer punch. I'm sticking this string through the tags from the front to the back. You could also do from the back to the front, but I do like my tags to have a consistent look. So within one layout, I try to do it the same each time. So now I'm just checking back with that photo that I took before I pulled everything apart so that I can put everything back together again. And one of the things that I noticed is that this paper here seems to be a little bit too long, which I kind of knew as I made it. I like to err on the side of leaving pieces bigger than they need to be because you can always trim them down. So I'll start by matting that photo on the star paper from Vicky Boutin, and then I will attach these two together. And I'm literally just following my photo there where I took the shot before I took everything apart. So I'm putting everything back together again in the same places that it was before. And I find it easier to just glue some things to other things and then put it together in chunks as opposed to piece by piece. But whatever works for you is fine, of course. There's no right or wrong way to scrapbook. I just share my process so that you can get ideas about how I do things and then make them your own. So I'm liking how this is looking, and I'm not sure I'm even really referring to the photo anymore because, yeah, see, I want the tags to overhang a little bit more, so I had to scooch that over a little bit. And as I think the original photo has the strip going behind all the layers, but I'm going to put it so that it's only behind some of the layers here. So I'll just add some adhesive to that and stick it up in the layers. Ooh, I really like how that looks. Next, we have to add these banners. And what I'm going to do is just tuck them up. I realized that not all of them were outlined, so we have to add an outline to that one. And I'm just going to tuck these banners up under some of the layers so that I don't have to worry about figuring out, am I going to string them together or look like they were strung together? I'm just going to tuck them. I do want them to all be slightly different lengths from one another, and I don't want them to have any pattern. I want them to look fairly random. So I start with one, then I make the next one shorter than it. Then I want the next one to be longer than even the first one. And then the last one is sort of in between. I've decided to outline. I actually have two. I love this color so much. I actually have two of these, and I am going to use the same color, but a thicker marker edge. Now, this is a chisel point, and I don't know what I was doing wrong, but it was not going where I wanted it to go. I must have been holding it at a really funny angle, and I tried to correct and it just kept on doing it wrong. So I'm not sure what happened there, but it's a little bit more jaggy than I expected it to be, but it's okay because I know I'm going to put some embellishments over top of where these banners hang out because it just looks a little plain through there. I'm looking at the foam sheet of stickers that come in the kit. I really love this sheet of stickers. They're so nice. And I really love this little swag of, is that what you call that? Like a splay, or leave me a comment because I don't know what that thing is called. But for some reason, the word swag is coming to mind. But I don't know if that's the right word or not. I'm going to use this tree embellishment. Now, this is already cross-stitched, so I'm not showing my process with this. I'll be honest with you, cross-stitching is, or it's not really cross-stitched, it's just embroidered, I guess. But it is not my jam. I don't love hand-stitching on things. So my friend Stephanie did a couple of those trees for me so that I wouldn't have to. So big shout out to Stephanie Hart, who did not all of them, but she did a handful of trees so that I could have some to use on my pages this month. I might do a few more myself. I'll do them at the TV or something so that I, have something. It's a good thing to do with your hands. And people love doing embroidery and that sort of thing. I just don't myself. So I am picking out all of the pink confetti pieces from the MTK exclusive confetti mix. This month's mix is a gorgeous selection of reds and greens with some really light pinks in there to just lighten it and give it this airy, fresh look, and some gold stars, tiny, tiny gold stars. They're so beautiful. Each of those colors, except the stars, have 3 different sizes. So I am varying the sizes of these pale pink little confetti pieces, and I basically want them to look like they're ornaments on the tree. We had just spent the day decorating our tree and our house for the holidays. This was I think it was in the middle of November. We decorated much earlier this year because I hosted my staff uh, my staff Christmas party. It was actually this past weekend, so it's already behind us and done. But we needed to be decorated before that, and I just didn't want to leave it all to the last minute because I knew that the party itself would require quite a bit of preparation. So that's Sophie. After decorating the house, she was all tuckered out, and the kitten came and crawled in her arms, and the two of them were sort of resting together, and I snapped a picture. So cute. I'm going to use this doily, but I'm not sure where yet. And I definitely want to tuck some pom-poms on this page. These pom-poms are absolutely beautiful, and when I saw them, I needed to have them for the holiday kit. There was no other option. So I nabbed them. They've actually been in our warehouse for a number of months waiting for Christmas to roll around. And here it is. They're in the Joy Kit, and I'm so pleased. These frames are fantastic, and what I'm doing with them here is I'm actually not using them as a frame. I'm just cutting them apart to have little pieces of them to tuck. I cut my doily down. This kit comes with 2 gold doilies. They're really pretty, and I'm going to use the one doily, but I'm going to cut it into a couple of pieces so that I'll get some repetition on my page. Now, one of my patrons who was watching and chatting along with us in the live stream, one of my patrons suggested An Armful of Joy. And that title was suggested because I think there's a title on the Vicky Boutin stickers that say something of joy, and I could kind of mix and match. And kind of personalize it to be an armful of joy. But I didn't really understand what she was suggesting. And so what I did was I just went ahead with an armful of joy, and I'm going to use the thickers. There are 2 different sets of thickers that come in this kit, so I'll be using those. Now, I was thinking about what kind of a white media I could put on my background. Remember at the beginning I mentioned I wanted to tone down that background because as beautiful and light as it is, I think it's just a little bit too busy, especially with all of those patterns that I have going on in my layers. So I was going to use a sparkly white media by Glitz Design. No, I forget what it was, but I didn't use it anyways. So what I'm deciding to do is add some gesso. I love to add gesso with a brayer like this because it allows you to add a super thin layer, and then you can layer it up if you want it to look a little bit thicker, and it allows you to just go really slowly and build up your layers where you need them to be. So I added some. I'm checking how it's looking. Once I add my layers back, I'm adding a little bit more. Basically, I want a frosty white but very soft, I don't want hard edges, layer between my layout and the background paper. And I want some white to be showing around all of the edges of my layers. It's almost going to give it like a bit of a glow, as if there's a glow coming out from behind my main parts of the page. Now I do plan to do a little secondary cluster up here in the corner, so I'm going to add a little bit of gesso here as well. Now when you're using your brayer with gesso, I would recommend that you quickly clean it off. Now the thing about gesso is that it's super smooth and it will dry super smooth on a brayer. If it does dry, it's not going to be a major problem. Tara makes a good point, which is using some gold on that background would also be very pretty. I'm cleaning it off because I'm thinking of it, but if you don't clean it off, your brayer will still work okay, and you can then at some point soak it in a cleaning medium and clean it off later. But I just like to clean it when I'm like in the middle of my process, whenever possible. Sometimes I don't, but this time I did. Now here are those beautiful Paige Evans letters. These thickers came with the main kit, and then the other thickers I'm going to use came with the add-on. I'm going to spell out the layout is going to be called An Armful of Joy, but I don't know that yet. So I'm just spelling out Armful of Joy. And I'm varying the letters, and I'm making sure that I'm choosing colors and patterns that coordinate with the colors already on the page. Most of these letters are in patterns that already show up on the page. So I am thinking, and I'm using my Thickers alignment tool there. Any thin ruler will do for this. What I'm thinking is that, so these are the second letter stickers, and these are from Vicki Boutin's Peppermint Kisses collection. And I'm going to use the gold ones. It comes with a full set of the black and a full set of the gold. And I just love how that gold word of joy picks up on the little edges of gold that are on the pom-pom trim and also on the gold doily. I want something else between my layers and my title, something that will give the title a bit of an opportunity. I want, because these words are two different sizes, I'm building up a layer here to put the smaller letters above, well, beside, but you know, if you've got it turned like I do, then it's above. And then that'll give me a little tiny notch for my joy to sit in. You need a notch for your joy to sit in, right? I'm adding some tiny attacher staples to my tags just to give that extra little detail. And then I'll place joy right here. And I basically cut down that red piece of paper with the little airmail stripe on it. I cut that exactly the size, like I tested it against the word joy so that I could make it end right where it needs to end for the word joy to fit there perfectly. And now I'm going to make this title go like that. So the title is sitting on the ledge and then joy is right beside it. And now, as you can see, there's this little gap there. So I'll fill that in by titling this An Armful of Joy. And then I'll change it even more in a few minutes because it looks like there's a bit too much of a gap between of and joy. It just seems like joy might get lost on this page and look more like an embellishment than part of the title. So I'll scooch it over a little bit more at some point. Now, I do want to work on this top cluster in the top left-hand side. You'll notice in the layout that's now displayed up in the top left-hand corner that there's a little secondary cluster up there, and that's what I'm going to work on here. Now, the purpose of a secondary cluster, besides sometimes you could use it to add some journaling or another photo or a title, but my purpose in using a secondary cluster in this case is to just provide a little bit of balance to the page. So much of it is off and over to the right-hand side that I want to put a little something over on the left-hand side to balance it out, and also to provide another opportunity for repetition. And we do like things to be in threes from a design perspective sometimes, and so it gives me a chance to have a third cluster of embellishments. The first one being the tree, and the second one being that layer of banners, and then this would be the third place. Now, I'd like to put little bits of the pom-pom in 3 different places here, and so adding one to my top cluster here is going to help with repetition. It'll give me my second place where the pom-poms are. So we'll put it just like that. And I grabbed that acetate heart from the Vicki Boutin goodie bag from her Peppermint Kisses collection. Oh, I love all those little goodies. That's one of the best embellishment sets I've had in a long time. Love, love, love that thing. So I just want to layer these 2 together like this. I'm just playing around with how much of that little strip I want to have showing. I'm attaching the acetate with with a staple there with my tiny attacher. And I'm just playing around with, I'll cut off the extras, and I'm playing around with where I want that happy, it says holiday goodness, holiday happiness. And I'm playing around with where that might be. One of the things I did was cut off the tip of it when it was layered in a different place, so I had to just put the tip back on it. That's okay. I will put a little embellishment there. Now, I do want a touch of gold doily over here as well. So there's gold doily over by the tree, and now there's gold doily here as well. It just provides a little bit of repetition up in my corner here. And I cut it down a little bit. It was just, there was a little bit too much of it there. I don't want it to grab your eye too much. I just want it to be a little, mostly subtle detail. As subtle as a gold foiled doily could be. They're not all that subtle, are they? Now, what I'm thinking, because I would like to introduce an assortment of different patterns up here to pick up on the assortment of patterns in the bottom, in the main part, and there's where the third bit of pom-pom will go, right there. I like my pom-pom trim to all face the same way, so they're all vertical instead of some being vertical and some being horizontal. It's fine. You could make some horizontal and some vertical, but I just really like the consistency of having them all be vertical in this case. So now I've got those in the 3 different places. And I'm going to make some mini flag banners, fishtail banners here. I'm going to make them smaller than the main ones. So this punch has 3 different sizes. It has a 1 inch, a 3/4 inch, and a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to be cutting these little pieces at the very smallest size. And as you can see, there's 3 different size channels there. And so I'm going to be sliding these banners into the very bottom channel. Cutting those cute little fishtails. Again, I just love the angles of them. Every time I cut them by hand, I always make my angles a lot more steep than that. So I really love the shallowness of those little fishtails. They're so cute. I'm outlining them with the same thicker blue pen from the Faber-Castell Pitt pens. And I have 1 pink, again, trying to repeat pink in this as an accent color to offset all of those blues, greens, and purples that are otherwise on the page. I could have fanned them out like that, but the flags on the bottom are not fanned out, so I decided to just tuck them up. I will tuck 2 of them underneath of the Holiday Happiness foam piece, and that will help a little bit. I had to add some outlining there. 2 of them will fit there. And then the last one won't be tucked under anything, but what I'll do is I'll just add a little embellishment up there at some point to cover up the edge of that last banner flag. So I'll put it right there. I'll find something to put there. For now, I'm putting an enamel dot, but I'm going to change that. So I would like to also embellish those banner flags at the bottom. And I just have to find some things to put on them. I'm leaving my enamel dots out because I definitely want to use those gold enamel dots in a few places on the page. I'm going to grab a couple of snowflakes, or at least 1 snowflake, and layer it on one of the flags. And then I have a little star shape in blue. And I don't necessarily need to put something on every single banner here, but I'm going to end up doing that because that's the MercyTiara way. Why put 1 or 2 on when you can put a whole bunch on? I really love that cute little bird, but wait till I find something else. I like the bird until I find the hot cocoa cups. So I looked through all of those die cuts that came in the main kit. These are the die cuts that came in the add-on, the embellishment add-on. And I like that, but it blends in too much. I like a bunch of these. These would look really cute. But again, it doesn't provide quite enough contrast. I want something pink on this one. I thought about adding this die cut snowflake. These have glitter on them too. They've got white glitter and they're so pretty. Can't wait to use those. So I couldn't find anything I wanted out of that set, but let's just have a look at the foam pieces and bingo, we've got ourselves a hot cocoa mug and I love it. I scooched the snowflake over just to give the mug a bit more space. And then instead of the bird, I decided to add a second hot cocoa mug. I wanted to add something else pink here, but it's looking a little bit too busy. This is already quite a busy page, so I need to be careful about not adding too many tiny things to it. And I definitely wanted to add some enamel dots, but again, because this page is so busy, it would be easy for these to get lost, so I'm placing them only on places that have the white paint underneath. The white gesso, of course. I'm going to replace those two enamel dots because again, I want to put those on white gesso. So I'm going to replace those with two stickers. They're just star puffy stickers from the Vicky Bouton embellishments. And now we have some enamel dots in 3 different places, but I'm actually going to add them in a 4th. I'll add the roller date stamp for my date. I'm just trying to figure out where it will go. And I'm going to put some journaling right above the title. I put the roller date stamp, like I put the proper date on, but I haven't actually stamped yet. I use a piece of washi tape to remind me where to end my lines because I sometimes think I want to end a line and then I go into autopilot and just go the whole length of the stencil. So the washi tape stops me from doing that. My journaling here says, Sophie and Karma are both tuckered out after a day of holiday decorating. And I like how that looks. It's going the same direction as the title, so it adds another something to read when you're turning your head that way, and it just kind of, picks up on that vertical element of the title by adding the journaling there. Now this snowflake just fits so perfectly there that I couldn't resist adding it. And because it's white on white, it's not adding too much busyness. I really like how it looks. It's like a subtle addition to this page. And I'm going to add 2 more enamel dots right here and here. So for a total of 4 clusters of 2. And this page is just about done, but remember how I said that there seemed to be a bit too much of a gap between joy and the beginning part of the title? Well, I feel like I need to fix that. So I'm going to first stamp my roller date stamp, November 19th, 2023. I used Stampin' Up! Misty Moonlight ink. And I'm putting everything away, thinking I'm done. But hang on a second. I cut out some of the section where I was just putting stuff away. And here's where I'm deciding, I think this needs to be scooched over just a teensy little bit so that of and joy just flow into one another a tiny bit better. So I will scooch over all of these. Now these foam letter stickers are super, super sticky. In fact, they're so sticky, it's a little bit tricky getting them off of the packaging. But because they're on gesso, they come off a little bit more easily than they would have on paper. And that gave me a chance to spread out the word "and" so that it no longer overlapped with that piece of paper. And I really like how it looks a lot better now. That tiny little shift to me made a really big difference because there was just a little gap of white space in between the F and the J. And also the A from the word "and" was just layered a little bit too much on top of the of that pattern paper. Now, as I mentioned, I was live streaming for my Patreons while I did this, so I just also showed the other page that I had made before this one for my tiaras. And here is the video close-ups of this one. Oh, it's so, so pretty. And when you see these two pages that I made in one sitting with the same kit, when you see them side by side, you can really get a sense of how you can get two completely different looks with one kit. That's what I love about using a scrapbooking kit. Now, before I share the photos, just a quick shout out to my Patreon supporters. These folks help make this channel happen, so big thanks to all of them. Patrons get early ad-free access to all my process videos, real-time unedited versions of all of my process videos, as well as monthly live streams and a few other perks. Hang tight because you'll get to see this layout side by side with the original one, which is fun to see as well. But here are some of the close-up photos of this one. The details make all the difference in the world. Look at that adorable Christmas tree, all decorated in pastel colors. I never decorate with pastel colors in my house, so I love a beautiful pastel layout. And here are the two pages side by side. And here are some of the places that you can find me on social media, and our shop website is up there, as well as my Patreon as well. I'd love if you joined our Facebook group. It is called MercyTiara Kit Club. You can search it on Facebook or check out the link in the information section below. Thanks so much for watching, and have yourself a really great scrappy week.